Hey everybody, it's GoblinoX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be drafting another Innistrad Midnight Hunt Premier Draft. And in this pack, not a great rare, being much more of a constructed card than a limited card, but some decent uncommons to choose from as well as some pretty sweet commons. So we have Vengeful Strangler. This card's been a little unimpressive to me without great ways to sacrifice it, because you do need to get that flip side to be getting a lot of value here. Defend the Celestials has been an excellent combat trick in green, however green is one of the weaker colors in the format. Root Coil Creeper has been a really fun flashback card for me. It can help you play like 3-4 color decks if you have a lot of flashback stuff going on. So Root Coil Creeper, really fun card for sure. Then we just have some excellent commons. We have Moonrager Slash in red being a very efficient removal spell, Diregraph Horde in black being just a premium finisher in the zombie decks. So the pick might be one of these. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do, because you are supposed to try to take monocolored cards at the start to stay a little more open, but I love me a Root Coil Creeper, and I have yet to draft a sweet flashback deck on video, so I'm going to try, if I can, to get this Root Coil Creeper going off. However, looks like this pack, we just have some great gold cards again. Sunrise Cavalier for a red-white aggressive deck, a 3/3 trample haste at worst, and anytime you flip between day and night, you're getting +1/+1 counters onto a creature. Really great aggressive card. And then Flesh Taker, super great white-black card here for the white-black sacrifice decks. Whenever you're sacrificing a card, you're getting life and scrying 1, whether or not you sacrificed it to Flesh Taker's effect. So just a really excellent value card there, as well as a very impressive attacker, very hard to block. Ambitious Farmhand, another white card I have enjoyed quite a bit. A 2-mana 1/1 that grabs you planes for only the 2-mana investment. It's pretty good, and it flips into a lifelinker potentially later on, making it pretty excellent. So I like all these uncommons a ton. In terms of the commons, nothing super great, Eaten Alive being the best. Oh, let's just go like 4-color flashback stuff here and take a Sunrise Cavalier, see if we go into maybe a red-white deck here. I'm just going to take good cards in every color at the start here, and we'll decide what colors we end up in as we see what looks to be the most open as we're past cards here. So the uncommons here and the rare here are all pretty weak, relatively unplayable, so no big signs in this pack. However, at common, we do have Olivia's Midnight Ambush being an excellent black removal spell. Pretty interested in that. And the next best commons are probably just like the big green card here. Tireless Hauler has been a good finisher. Pestilent Wolf has been a great 2-drop. There's also like Geistwave in blue for some good blue interaction, but I think Olivia's Midnight Ambush is just the strongest card in this pack generally. Just a very good deal for that removal spell. So I'm going to scoop up an Olivia's Midnight Ambush. Again, staying pretty open at the start here. We are going to end up cutting a lot of cards, whatever we end up in, but I'm okay with that. Let's just see what looks to be the most open. And black looks pretty open here. Again, I think the best cards in this pack are probably the black ones. We have Hobbling Zombie being a 2/2 Death Toucher that replaces itself with a Decayed Zombie, and Eaten Alive being a great removal spell. A lot of decayed zombies to sacrifice to this, and even if you don't 5 mana to exile, something's a pretty good deal. And then there's like Blood Tithe Collector, which is a nice card to play on turn 5, a 3/4 flyer that forces your opponent to discard a card if you've damaged them. So I like all 3 of these black cards a lot. I actually like them somewhat equivalently. I think they're all quite powerful and the strongest cards in this pack. What do we want to take here? Really, I think you can't go super wrong with any of these, but I suppose I'll take the Eaten Alive here. And the reason is, if we do end up doing the Root Coil thing, it's possible we end up in like a Sultai Control-y deck, where we can splash in these black removal spells and have a good time with them, whereas the other black spells are a little less splashable for sure. Not the kind of thing you want to splash in. So we could take Rise of the Ants here if we're still on that Root Coil Creeper flashback ramp plan. Certainly a big, powerful card, and again, we could end up in green, blue, and black here. Maybe green, black, or green, blue as the main of the deck. Splashing in one of the colors. Yeah, I like Rise of the Ants as the best card in this pack. Revenge of the Drowned, pretty good blue interaction here, but nothing super spicy in the other colors. I'll take that Rise of the Ants. See how things are going for the green flashback deck. And here we have a great card for that deck. Death Bonnet Sprout's going to keep milling yourself. Mills you once per turn, then once there are 3 or more creatures in your grave, you do flip it over into the 3/3 Death Bonnet Hulk that can exile a card from any graveyard. It doesn't have to be your graveyard, and if you exile a creature, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So Death Bonnet Sprout, Death Bonnet Hulk, a pretty great card to fuel the grave for the Root Coil Creeper kind of flashback decks. So while Dawnheart Mentor is a pretty great deal for the mana cost, as is like Bird Admirer, I think Death Bonnet Sprout makes the most sense for our potential strategy here if everything pans out well. So we do have a Shadow Beast sighting for a flashback card to play. However, this is one of my least favorite of the flashback cards because it does play pretty poorly against blue. They just have to bounce your beast token for it to be gone forever. We also have Scab Wrangler in blue here, which this is a pretty late Scab Wrangler. This card is really good with a lot of creatures in your deck or just a lot of decayed zombie tokens. So that card ends up being quite good in most blue decks. I think I'm just going to take Scab Wrangler here, pushing more into green-blue here. See where we end up from there. And here we get a super great card, Overwhelmed Archivist, 3 mana for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, discard a card. So great blue card here, and it works really well in the self-mill deck as well, which is what green-blue can do quite well in this format, since this is another card we can recast from the graveyard. So it also combos well with the Root Coil Creeper, because this will add 2 mana to recast it from the grave. It won't be able to return it to our hand because it's not a flashback card, it's a disturb card, but it'll still give us the 2 mana for it. So things are going pretty great here. And Defend the Celeste just wheeled all the way through. So it looks like green is wide open for sure. So I think Defend the Celeste just seems fine. It's definitely better in decks that are trying to go into combat a ton, so more like aggressive strategies rather than the potentially slower deck we're going for here with the self-mill going for big value throughout the game. But I think that Defend the Celestials is still the best card in this pack by a decent degree. I guess we could take like the Tireless big old 4/5, and that would make a lot of sense, but I think Defend the Celestials is just really good. Here, Locked in the Cemetery would be fine removal for our green-blue deck here because we are milling ourselves a lot, but we are open to splashing here with green as one of our colors. And Gale Drifter is going to be a pretty good deal being able to cast this twice, so I think I'm going to take Gale Drifter. And for the removal, we're probably just trying to splash in decent white removal. This is a pretty easy Pestilent Wolf. I guess we could splash in a Faithful Mending because it's a flashback card, but it's not a particularly good one. So I'll just take a Pestilent Wolf, Unblinking Observer, or Timberland Guide. Timberland Guide more for the Coven decks, but a decent deal, 2 mana 2/2 by itself. I think Unblinking Observer looks fine for us. Adds a mana for an instant or sorcery, so that works for any flashback card, or a mana for a disturb cost, which we're also kind of going for. And this would be the deck for Otherworldly Gaze, but even in this kind of deck, I'm not super excited about Otherworldly Gaze. Just looking at the top few cards of our library and milling it. So here we have some good splashable cards. We have Light Up the Night that we can splash in just as a big burn spell. But in our deck, we're most likely just using this as a big splashed in removal spell, not really to finish our opponent off, so I don't love it a ton here. I'm actually more excited about potentially splashing in a Seize the Storm. If we have a lot of instant and sorcery flashback cards, especially with a lot of self-mill to fill the grave, this is a pretty good finisher, giving us a couple gigantic elementals with trample. So I like going for the Seize the Storm here. We are definitely going to need to get some good cards to help us make this mana fixing easier. So maybe we could get a second Root Coil Creeper because both green and blue have seemed somewhat open. And other than that, there is a common in green, 3 mana to search your library for a basic land, put it into play, tapped. That would be excellent as well. Evolving Wilds being quite good too. But we also just see another Scab Wrangler. Seeing This pack that was opened here is just excellent for blue-black zombie decks, period. There's Scab Wrangler, Blade Stitch Scab, Hobbling Zombie, a lot of great stuff there. So, wow, somebody opened the blue-black Dream here. They could even be in blue-black zombies and just took a good zombie rare or something. Yeah, this pack is just excellent all around. If we want to play the funnest deck splashing in for 4 colors here, Evolving Wilds is the safest pick. But Scab Wrangler is a card we can play in our green-blue, I can't speak, in our green-blue flashbacky deck, and if blue-black zombies ends up being super open, that's also the best card for fitting into our current deck and potentially working with the pivot. And we see an Organ Hoarder here, a Ghoulish Procession, Some great cards in blue and black. Flip the switch even. I like Organ Hoarder here. It's good in our current deck, and it will also be excellent if we can pivot to blue-black zombies. So Organ Hoarder it is. Look at the top 3 cards of our library. Put 1 into hand, put the rest into our grave. Definitely really good with flashback and disturb cards. So that was pretty nice. Gale Drifter. Another Gale Drifter seems fine to me. Probably the best card for us. There's like a Silverbolt, which would be fine removal. And it's castable whatever colors of cards we end up with, which could be helpful. But I think I'm going to go Gale Drifter here. Just another great card to mill ourselves into. Alright. We do see another Seize the Storm here, so I am primarily looking towards the red splash, I think. We could absolutely pivot to blue-black zombies here, and that is one of the better strategies, because we do still see a Siege zombie and a Flip the Switch. So that might be... Yeah, I think if I were strictly trying to win here, I would take just like a Siege zombie and just start trying to go blue-black zombies, because it is more than open enough, it looks like, but I want to have a lot of fun, and I really like the flashback decks, so I'm going to take Seize the Storm here, and we're kind of going all in on self-mill with a lot of flashback stuff. So we want more instants and sorceries in this deck, specifically ones with flashback for Seize the Storm to work really well with. So I kind of like Arcane Infusion for that reason, but Revenge of the Drowned is just another instant or sorcery we can play even if we go green-blue-black instead of green-blue-red. Bait Hook Angler is just a great card, being a 2-1 that trades off early game and blocks again later. I have a good amount of early game creatures in green-blue here, so I think we're doing okay there. I kind of want to push into green-blue-red with a lot of spells here. So let's take that. So Geist Wave is a nice cheap spell to get in the grave. Storm Skrillex combos off when we're casting a lot of instants and sorceries. Or Flip the Switch, a good counterspell if you have a lot of instant speed stuff. We have 3 instants and 4 sorceries already. We're doing pretty okay on instant and sorcery spells. Don't really think I want Skrillex though, because we have plenty of winning power just with double Seize the Storm, Rise of the Ants. So I think Flip the Switch or Geist Wave. I'm going to take Geist Wave there. Not super sure about that one. Alright, here we have some filler green creatures, a wolf or a cavalry, or we have Larder Zombie that can self-mill us, or another Geist Wave. Kind of wish I took Flip the Switch there so we could just take Geist Wave now, because I don't really think I need to. I'm actually kind of in for Larder Zombie here, for just the self-mill card that blocks early game pretty well. Seems fine to me. I don't want to splash in too many red cards, although Ardent Elementalist is certainly a powerful one. Bringing back an instant or sorcery from grave, being a 2-1 there. I think I'd rather just get a creature that's on color for our main colors, maybe even Pestilent Wolf here. Now we can just take a Devious Cover-Up, I suppose, for late game. Nice little counterspell. Shuffles some of our self-milled cards back into our deck. We'll just get Flip the Switches now, I suppose. Flip the Switches going nice and late for us. Another Flip the Switch, don't mind if I do. And yeah, now we're just like green, blue, red. Ooh, Slogurk, kind of perfect for our strategy. Slogurk, great for self-mill stuff. A 3 mana for a 3/3 trample. Whenever land is put into the graveyard from anywhere, put a +1/+1 counter on it. By removing 3 counters from it, you return it to its hand. And when it dies, you return all of your lands from your grave to hand. So Slogurk's going to be pretty great here. Although we could splash in a foul play if we go green, blue, black. But that's kind of it for other options here. So Slogurk, great for the self-mill stuff here. We do want to grab a few more ways to mill ourselves. Right now we have Larder Zombie, Death Bonnet Sprout, Overwhelmed Alchemist draws and then discards a card. Organ Hoarder mills ourselves. We've got a few. I guess we can throw in Otherworldly Gaze if we really need it. But I think that's one of the biggest things we want here, just great ways to mill ourselves. Now we have Evolving Wilds for good fixing, which I guess, yeah, we do want good fixing as well. I don't think I'm going the 4-color version here. I think I'm green-blue with the red splash. Yeah, fixing's certainly an option, but I don't think I'm taking it here over Memory Deluge, because this card's just excellent. 4 mana to look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom, and then you flash it back for 7. Look at the top 7 cards of your library and do the same thing. Memory Deluge is just awesome. So I'm going to take Memory Deluge here, but other great cards we could wheel. Evolving Wilds, Consider, Devious Cover-Up would all be fine for this deck. Even under Geist Wave would be okay. But I'm taking Memory Deluge here. Seems like an excellent rare for us. And now what do we have? Unnatural Moonrise really is not the kind of card for our deck, even though it does flashback. And again, we could splash in like a Naturalist, but we're not doing the Werewolf thing, so neither of those cards make much sense. These green cards don't make a lot of sense. So we could take another Otherworldly Gaze, but I'm still not even excited about running the first one. Kind of interested in Stormrider Spirit or Startle here. We do have 13 creatures, so a Startle could be a big enough combat trick to clear something out, draw us a card. It's good with our double Scab Wrangler, but Stormrider Spirit's great with our Devious Cover-Ups and our instant speed counterspells. They let us hold up a counterspell, and then if we don't cast a counterspell, we still get to play a creature onto the board, so I'm just going to take another Stormrider Spirit there. Alright, triple Seize the Storm. So, yeah, let's get a lot of 5/5 tramples late game, I suppose. Well, not 5/5, but XX tramples. Hopefully 5/5s. We'll see how big they end up being, but yeah, a third Seize the Storm seems super fine to me. I am very excited about this deck. This could be a really fun deck to run, and now we have a lot going on late game. Triple Seize the Storm and Rise of the Ants, so I don't believe we want the big green creature here. Just take another decent early game card between Unblinking Observer and Willowgeist. Willowgeist potentially gets bigger as we're flashing back stuff from the grave, but I feel like even in the flashback deck, that's just not that likely. So an Observer might just be better. It is the rare, it's the card we'll get to play with less often. We'll try out the Willowgeist here, but I don't think it's going to perform extra well. Alright, excellent. We got a little bit more self-mill here with Organ Hoarder. Draw a card and mill the other two out of our top three. Super, super excellent pickup here this late in the draft. Very happy with that. Galvanic Iteration. When you cast your next instant or sorcery, copy it and you can choose new targets. If we have 7 mana, we can cast this and Seize the Storm and just live the dream. I feel like that doesn't happen super often. It does flashback as well, though. But now we might just want like a Locked in the Cemetery. Again, we have good late game stuff, so I don't think we want a Skrillex. I'm just going to take Locked in the Cemetery. That card there was cute, but I don't think it would be great for us. I'll just take another Rise of the Ants. The early game stuff here isn't super exciting. So we'll just have a million late game cards again. We already have double Flip the Switch, and they're getting passed around quite late here. We also have Devious Cover-Up, so we have a lot of counter spells. I think I want another Stormrider Spirit for another card to cast if we don't counter something. Although Revenge of the Drowned, a pretty sweet option too. And Consider seems pretty good for this deck. Look at the top card of our library. If it's a flashback card, toss it in the grave and just draw a card too. Seems super good. Pretty cheap way to get some instant sorceries into the grave quickly. We'll take a Startle now. And we're getting some excellent cards pretty late here. I think I like Dawnheart Rejuvenator here for splashing in the red stuff. Another Unblinking Observer. And another Stormrider Spirit. Alright, we get to make some cuts to this deck and be the green-blue flashback deck, splashing in a bit of red here. This is going to be a fun deck. But there was a lot of great stuff getting passed around in our draft pod, so I think we could have ended up in just the sweet blue-black zombie deck, just straight up. But here we still have a pretty great deck. 9 instants and 5 sorceries. It's 14 there. Pretty great. We could just cut a ton of creatures if we want to. Go hard on the Seize the Storm flashback stuff, because the Seize the Storm is like 3 more creatures, Rise of the Ants are 2 more creatures. So we kind of have 5 more creatures than whatever our deck says. Kind of interested in getting rid of Pestilent Wolves over Observers, because the Observers do give us the mana for more instants, which we have a boatload of. Gale Drifters seem a bit expensive, and we have a lot of flashback over just Disturb cards here. Are we actually just cutting the Stormrider Spirits? Because we want a really high instant and sorcery count in this deck. We've got a lot of creatures, and I really like our mid-range creatures. The Creeper's excellent, the Hoarders are excellent. Maybe the Observers we're also cutting. Just going really low on creatures. Then the Scab Wranglers are less good too, but we have double Flip the Switch, which makes a zombie. Startle makes a zombie. Probably not playing Defend the Celeste. Just your combat trick isn't going to work excellent when we're going to play a very low creature count deck. Yeah, cut 2 Observers. Probably cut Willowgeist. Again, this feels like probably just a 1 mana 1/1 so often. It's going to take quite a while to make it much bigger. This is 13 creatures. We can go down to 10 creatures. Very low creature count here. The Scab Wranglers are doing very little, but now all of our instant sorcery tribal stuff like Arcane Infusion and Seize the Storms are just excellent. Yeah, because we have 13 instant sorceries here. This is going to be a fun deck to play. I'm not sure how well it's going to go, but I'll certainly do my best with this one. This is just right up my alley. This is the kind of 3-color flashbacky nonsense I was hoping for to play around with here. I have been moderately sad about Locked in the Cemetery because it doesn't shut down any activated abilities if they have good abilities on their creatures. So we could cut that here. We've got to cut something. Yeah, I don't love cutting the Startle because I like it as just a cantrip, just draw a card. Even though it is a combat trick, so like, sure, we're not getting a lot out of the -2 very often, but we're just drawing a card with it, filling our grave with more instant sorceries, which when you have triple Seize the Storm seems pretty important. So I really don't think I want to cut any instants and sorceries. If I cut a non-creature card here, I just want to cut a Locked in the Cemetery or a land. And I don't think I want to cut a land because I have some really expensive flashback costs. 7 mana there, 8 mana there, 7 mana there. I'm just going to cut a Locked in the Cemetery. I suppose if we just keep dying to things that we could have locked down, we can throw that back in. We have a lot of options for how to rebuild this deck throughout the draft if we need to. But for now, I'm liking this. Yeah, I'm liking this as the build. And we're going to seize some ants here. With triple Seize the Storm, double Rise of the Ants as our big game enders, and hopefully just enough random cheap creatures and spells to survive until we're casting those. And they all have flashbacks, so we'll be casting them and recasting them all over the place. So we'll see how things work for the 3-color flashback deck here. It's going to be some fun stuff. This is a great opening hand. We're going to mill ourselves a lot. Death Bonnet Sprout, Larder Zombie can mill ourselves, and then of course the double Organ Hoarder for the draw spell that also mills us later on. Very excited for this game. Very excited for this hand. We're going to start with a turn 1 at Death Bonnet Sprout since it can attack and it'll mill us by itself. The Larder Zombie needs some support. It needs some more untapped creatures to mill ourselves. Ooh, mill Slogurk immediately. Well, that would have been a pretty great turn 3 play here, so a little sad. Definitely the risk you take playing a self-mill deck. You're sometimes going to mill good cards, but sometimes you're going to mill bad cards and get closer to drawing your good cards. Pretty much the same thing either way. So one thing that I didn't do that I definitely should when we look at our deck again is take a good look at the mana base, see how many red sources it ended up putting in here, because it might have put in more than I wanted. I totally forgot to make our mana base ourselves. We're just going with whatever the auto-suggester decided was good here. So Slogurk and Island would have been good draws here, so some sad stuff from the Sprout here so far. Well, Scab Wrangler it is, the only viable play here. We're playing against a black-red deck with Thermo Alchemist on the board. So one thing to mention here with self-mill stuff, it can feel really bad when it's like, yeah, Slogurk would have been a good draw, yeah, that land would have been a good draw, but it's always important to keep in mind that that isn't a reason not to run self-mill cards, because we were equally likely to just mill cards that would have been bad draws. So it's not like these cards are like are actively causing us to not curve out well, because we could have just been as likely to not play any self-mill cards and end up not drawing our land anyway. Or the self-mill cards could have made it so that we top deck the land faster or something like that. Pretty bad explanation of it, but I think you get the gist of what I'm going at. So Organ Hoarder did some great work there. We get the 5th land, so we're getting close to casting this Rise of the Ants. We also have another one engrave and an Arcane Infusion engrave. So there's a burn down the house. Going to go ahead and get the 3 for 1 here. Right? Yeah, they're going to deal 5 to everything. That's fine by us. It's not awesome for us, but we have plenty more cards to play after this. We do want the 6th land for to get to Rise of the Ants. It's also a blue source, which is good here. So I'm going to decline. I'm going to keep that so that we can play the mana for Cover Up here. And I actually think I'm just going to hold up Cover Up because we have Rise of the Ants next turn. I don't think we need to draw into anything specific with an Organ Hoarder, so just a Cover Up here to counter whatever they're doing, which on an Ardent Elementalist, that would pick up a Bring Down the House. That seems like a really good hit there. And now we can just bring back a bunch of great creatures to draw into. Yeah, all these would be pretty excellent draws, so let's shuffle them all back in. And then we'll just cast a Rise of the Ants here. And now, because we countered Ardent Elementalist, they do not get to burn down the house again just to kill our ants, which they could have otherwise. Crawl from the Cellar on the Thermo Alchemist. Alright, fine by us. Let's arise some ants out here. Up to 19 life, and we've got a couple 3/3s. We are 2 mana away from just going off, getting a ton more ants. So there's a Thermo Alchemist, and past the turn, we hit a land, so we're 1 mana away from another Rise of the Ants. We could Arcane Infusion or Organ Hoarder here. I think I would rather Organ Hoarder and hold up the mana for Geist Wave. Get a Consider to our hand, 2 lands to grave, or a land in hand. We do just need a land, so if I pick up Consider, I'm just going to cast Consider to pick up another land anyway, because we want to hit an 8th mana. So I might as well just pick up the land, right? Yeah. Might as well just pick up the land here. Get that guarantee instead of the very likely to hit a land on Consider, but there's just no reason to cast it if we're just trying to draw land off of it anyway. Just draw the land immediately. So our Seize the Storms are pretty huge here, aren't they? Probably have like 4 or 5 instant sorceries in grave. We'll count them up if we hit a Seize the Storm. For now, it doesn't super matter. We just cast more Rise of the Ants next turn. Try to get there that way. I guess our opponent's thinking here, so we can count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in grave. Yep. I'm going to get some big things if we hit a Seize the Storm. If we Geist Wave something here, it'll be 6 of them. Still have 22 cards in our library, so we're not that worried about milling out. We do only have 1 Devious Cover-Up, so we can't prevent ourselves from milling out every game, so we will need to worry about that every now and then, but generally not something to worry about till we're quite low on library, like 10 cards or less. We can definitely still keep pretty aggressive with the self-milling at this point in the game. If you're going to eat alive the Organ Hoarder, alright, we'll Geist Wave it and draw a card and save it, I guess. And then we can recast it and draw another card off of it. We're not going to. We're just going to Rise of the Ants here, but we might as well. Alright, so just double removal definitely kills the Organ Hoarder. The Geist Wave does not go off, but we can just play some ants here. We'll be fine with it. They are down to a Crawl from the Cellar. They can flash back to bring a creature back from grave. But they have no creatures in grave and a Thermo Alchemist on board. Looks like we are pretty thoroughly getting there with just a gigantic swarm of ants. Our opponent should have drafted some tarot because this is not looking great. Down to 18. Yeah, so the draws have just worked out really well for us against our opponent. They drew into a lot of removal, and removal's not super good against our deck because we just get all the massive late game value with all the flashback. So, pretty unlucky game for our opponent, but definitely going to just crush them with a mountain of ants there. Great stuff from the Rise of the Ants. As we head into round 2, 1-0 to start things off. All right, here we are in round 2 against another Diamond Tier 1 player. So this could be their one game before Mythic, just like it is for us. So if I lose this round, don't gotta feel too bad, because we might have let somebody dance their way up into Mythic, which is always good. Always a good time. Help everybody out a little bit here. So Scab Wrangler turn 2. We've got a big late game with Seize the Storm. We are going to need to hit some instant sorceries here if we want to really go off. Right now it's just making a 1-1 currently. But potentially later. I also forgot to look at the land count in the deck, see if the number of forests, islands, and mountains is a number I would agree with here, or if we want to change things. Slogurk into Organ Hoarder, pretty great start to the game. Definitely looking like a mirror match here. They do mill a flashback card, the big old 7 mana to get a 4/4 flashback card. One of the cards that I passed up on because I'm not a huge fan of it, but it is definitely good in this deck. So here's Dawnheart Rejuvenator, but we just have a boatload of lands and only 1 instant or sorcery, so our Seize the Storm is not likely to make anything that big. So things don't look great here, to be honest. There's an Eccentric Farmer from our opponent, another great card for this deck, mills 3, then picks up a land from the grave to put in their hand. So 3 mana 2/3 that draws a land and mills you a little bit for stuff, but I just hit a few creatures here. Nothing flashback. So we have a Geist Wave now to get another instant or sorcery into our graveyard to make Seize the Storm bigger. However, they don't really have anything we want to bounce right now, so we just Seize the Storm to make a 1/1. It'll be bigger as we cast more spells, so it's still okay to just Seize the Storm immediately if I'm not casting Geist Wave anyway. Feels pretty unlikely I'm casting Geist Wave, so let's just make our 1/1. Excuse me. So some of these cards are worded in a way to where they will not get any bigger throughout the game, but this one is worded to where they do. The creature has the ability on it, so it's okay to cast Seize the Storm when you're only getting something small out. Now we just hold on to a Flip the Switch and a Geist Wave here for some interaction, and every piece of interaction we play makes our elemental a little bit bigger, makes it more possible to get something going here. We could Flip the Switch this, but get rid of our 2/4. I'm not that concerned. I guess we don't block well without the 2/4. I don't want to Geist Wave this. Yeah, I guess I'll Flip the Switch here. It feels bad because now if they play some big bomb spell, I'm not going to have our counter spell. But with the information we have here, if they just play a land and tap out for their 4/4, we're incredibly fine with that. All right. Yeah, because now we still have excellent blockers for that, and we can just Geist Wave the 4/4 away. And it's a pretty good deal. I should have tapped something down, so I might be able to attack with that if I wanted to here. So we're going to Seize the Storm. Let's play our land first so that we can hold up the Rejuvenator for a blocker. But now we have 2 3/3s out of it. So it was a pretty good deal all around. Now Scab Wrangler starts going off. We tap down one of their attackers before combat, and we'll still have enough blockers to block anything else. So just tap down Slogurk here. Draw another Seize the Storm. Don't mind if I do. Thank you, top deck. Let's get some more 4/4s now, I suppose. Oh, I should have played land first. We're 1 mana off from getting through a Flip the Switch now. That was a big punt, potentially, here. But Devious Cover-Up just exiles it, so that's whatever. We get got either way. So luckily we weren't punished for that misplay. We could start attacking with 4/4s, but we could also just wait to draw more instants and sorceries. We still have like 8 in the deck or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We still have 9 instants and sorceries in the deck. We can get to a point where they can't like double block and kill one. Like if we attack it, they can block with a 3/2 and a 2/3, and I only kill one of those creatures for that. So later on they won't be able to do that anymore, so I think we just hold on to these 4/4s. They're just going to get bigger and bigger to the point where they just don't have any good blocks. Alright, so Organ Hoarder there. Does mill a flashbacking 4/4, so that'll be pretty good. And they cast another flashbacking 4/4, alright. So the green-blue splashing black version of our deck, but we are definitely both doing the same thing. I forgot to tap down the Slowgurk there, didn't really matter, they don't want to attack either way. We'll just do it now. There's our own Devious cover-up. Suppose we do that and just shuffle nothing in. Yeah, Devious cover-up's not awesome here. Eaten alive. Alright, well, I think I cover that up because now these are 5/5s that just block really well and we save them. This only shuffles cards from our graveyard. We can't target their cards. That would be really good. Yeah, I'm not going to shuffle anything back in here. I'm just going to counter this. Make our 4/4s 5/5s. Keep them on the board. They have another cover up here. That would be brutal. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. It's going to be really good for the long game because now their deck is shoved full of more powerful cards to cast later, and they do clear out the 4/4 here. And our other 4/4 is still a 4/4. It's not a 5/5 because the card that we exile doesn't have flashback. And I don't want to tap things. I don't want to tap things down before combat anymore because then I'd have one blocker untapped. I can still tap things down in the end step, I guess. Organ Hoarder is a great draw if we hit something good here. We do have the 4 mana up to make it survive through a Flip the Switch if they have one. They do not have a Flip the Switch. Memory Deluge to hand to draw big here, and a Startle Goes to Grave, make our thing a 5/5. This is the one time we know they don't have counter magic because they did not try to flip the switch, or they didn't even hold for it. So we cast right now in case they top deck Devious cover up, I guess. Drawing an Organ Hoarder and a Scab Wrangler. Alright. We can cast Scab Wrangler here. And again, our Seize the Storm Elemental is just getting bigger and bigger here. So there's a 4/4 beast from our opponent. As they go to combat, I think I will tap a creature down now, because we're not going to want to block with Scab Wranglers, so we just tap 2 Scab Wranglers and a zombie. They're going to eat alive again. Alright, well, we are running them out of cards, but now we're out of good blockers, so that is a big deal here. We're going to have to draw something good, but we've got a lot of cards to help do that. 1, 2, 3. We can only tap down one creature either way. But I guess we might as well tap down the one that is about to die. Clear out a beast token here, I think, because any bounce spells will just kill a token, whereas we could just straight kill Slowgurk. They get some lands back if they do that, but they don't have any lands in grave anyway. Yeah, sure. Tap down the non-token here, and I guess we could double block Slowgurk if we want to. I only need 1 Scab Wrangler for the ability to work, so we can just take trades here. Just take 4. Alright. What do we have here? Rise of the Ants. I was going to say Revenge of the Ants, but that is not the name. Pretty great draw. We gain some life here, get some ants out, and we still have the Organ Hoarder mana. And then, of course, flashing it back for more of them later is excellent. Super sick draw here. Now we draw a Seize the Storm to hand. Throw a Slowgurk and Consider in the grave. Consider in the grave's a good thing. Slowgurk in grave doesn't really matter. More than enough creatures now to tap some stuff down. Alright, there's Shadow Beast Sighting. Super excellent draws here. Really potentially turning some things around. So just tap the creatures we don't want to block with, but we can double block a 4/4 with 2 3/3s, and we're super happy with that because we're getting more of them. Recasting Rise of the Ants here. We only have enough mana to do one thing here, so what's the biggest impact? It's probably just more ants with a Scab Wrangler on the board, so let's get them. Eccentric Farmer possibly makes Slogurk a bit bigger, and then puts a land into their hand. Does get a Bait Hook Angler to bring back as a flyer there. Some great stuff there. We're kind of just trying to outrace their Devious cover-ups for lethal here. So hopefully the one card in hand we don't know about is not a Devious cover-up, and we can just start Seize the Storming here. And going off that way, we can still double block a 5/5 with 2 3/3s. So do that. Double block a 5/5 with 2 3/3s, a 4/4 with 2 3/3s. Right, go to our turn. Another Rise of the Ants. So I guess I Seize the Storm here. If it gets covered up, we just Rise of the Ants? Or do we do it the other way around? Which is a bigger deal? I feel like Seize the Storm is actually bigger for us now, because we want to have a creature that's just massive and starts trampling in. We don't really need a million ants, but I guess either one's going to win the game. So I guess let's Rise of the Ants here. If they cover up Rise of the Ants, we're happier than them covering up Seize the Storm. Alright, and they just don't have cover-ups, and now we're just living the absolute dream. Our board is just absolutely ridiculous, and we have more flashback cards to cast here. Land for turn, one card in hand we don't know about. Tap a 5/5 here. 4, 5, 6, 7 creatures. We can tap 2 more cards now. Tap a 4/4, I guess. Just make blocks if they attack. Alright, tap another 4/4, and they have 4, 5, 6, 7 power, so our 10/10 gets in this turn. Another land here. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 mana. 12 mana is not enough to do 2 things still. We could do 7 and 7. That's 14. That would be the cheapest. So we're just casting one spell and hoping it doesn't get covered up. Well, we're definitely just attacking with our 10/10 trample first. Seeing if they have instant speed interaction. I guess I should have tallied things up here. The best they can do is block 3 3/3s. Oh, they just have instant speed interaction. Well, F. I should have checked if we had lethal there. They have 3 blockers. They block 3 things for 3 damage. Then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 things get in for at least 2 apiece. Yeah, we just had lethal. We actually have more lethal if I just Rise instead of Seize the Storm, probably. It depends on if they hit removal. Seize the Storm's more damage if they don't. So we'll just go for Seize the Storm, I guess, and then we'll go for lethal this turn instead of being a doofus about it. I'm just going to let them attack in if they want. They do not want to, which makes sense. Get rid of all the highest toughness blockers for our Trampler. Rise some ants here. And then just attack all. We're at 23. This has to be lethal or they could kill us on the crackback. So 1, 2, 3, 4 blockers. Each blocker stops 3 damage. So tapping the 2/2 zombie does more than attacking with it to tap down the 4/4. And then we hit for well over lethal with elemental being trample. Like I'm fairly certain. So we do that and then we attack all. If we don't have lethal here, then I threw this game in the trash, but I'm fairly certain we do. They just can't stop the trample damage. Yeah, puts them to -7 because of all that gigantic trample power there. And that'll rank us up to Mythic, Diamond Tier 1 into Mythic. Probably Mythic percentages here. We'll find out. I hope we're not numbered mythic, because it's always really stressful to be numbered mythic, because every game you lose is a huge, huge, huge bummer. Well, we're numbered mythic, number 857. All right, 2-0 now. Now every loss is going to be a massive bummer. If you can't tell, I'm quite scared. But we'll do our best here. We are back in mythic for the Innistrad Midnight Hunt inaugural season here. But hey, 2-0 to start it out with a really fun flashback deck. I'm super into that, and I'm super into this hand with turn 1 Death Bonnet Sprout. I'm also super into whatever the Magic Arena auto-suggester for the lands did, because it's working out. We're getting every color. Things have been fine. So I'm just gonna let it roll, not even gonna look at what it chose. Just going to assume it did a good job, because it's working out thus far. So we're playing against blue and black, Ecstatic Awakener turn 1, Bait Hook Angler turn 2. That's going to make their turn 3 quite excellent. With the ability to sacrifice a disturbed creature to the Awakener to be attacking with a 4/4 every turn and draw a card. It's just a really good deal there. Pretty nice starting curve here. Well, it looks like they choose to attack with the Angler instead. Just hit for 2. We will take it. Our creatures are pretty good here. The Sprout and the Wrangler both pretty great engines for us. And Falcon Abomination coming on out. Turn 3. Pretty great great curve here from the blue-black deck. Well, land pass turn it is for us. Would be really happy if they just tap out for a big spell here. Would be pretty unhappy if they just sacrificed the Decayed Zombie to flip the Awakener. That would be a bummer. So we take 4 here, down to 14. Alright, Gale Drifter, we do get to flip the switch here, counter that. And then just Seize the Storm next turn. Now we have a lot of creatures out for tapping things down. We can tap down their 1 blocker if we want to attack in. Probably don't want to, but we'll leave ourselves open to the option. And Seize the Storm's our only castable card here, so we'll definitely do it. Get a 3/3 out. I don't believe I want to attack in here. I think I want to tap down Falcon Abomination and hold a 3/3 blocker. We have Rise of the Ants and stuff coming in late game. And of course, recasting Seize the Storm. So I think we have the late game under lock. I don't really need to push in damage here. I just need to prevent some damage to us here. Of course, we never know what they have. If they have a bunch of counter spells in blue there, they could really lock things down and win the long game by just hitting us for 2 in the sky over and over. So if our Rise of the Ants gets like covered up here and stuff like that, maybe it'd be better to be trying to race and pushing in the damage there. But as things stand right now, our current board state against theirs, it's looking like I feel like I want to play for the long game here. Of course, a Diregraph Horde on turn 5 would be really bad for us too. Diregraph Horde would exile 2 cards from our graveyard when it comes into play. Could exile Seize the Storm and Rise of the Ants if we go for Rise of the Ants next turn, but we don't really have an alternate play to try to make. So we definitely, we're definitely just going to go for that. So now they have a 4/4 that might be attacking in, so do I even want to tap down the Abomination or do I want to tap down the 4/4? If I'm tapping something down, I'm tapping down the 4/4. I could choose not to tap down, then I could trade with the 4/4 with our 3/3 and 1/1, but I don't think I want to do that. Let's tap down the 4/4 and just take 2 in the sky, I guess. Down to 12. So we know they can't counter Rise of the Ants here if we just cast it. But they could exile it from our graveyard with their thing. It's our only play for the turn either way, so we don't really have a choice there. And now we're at 14. We're gaining life every time we cast Rise of the Ants. We have enough creatures to tap down one of their attackers, so I think we do start attacking him with the Trampler here. And we're just going to start casting a million copies of Rise of the Ants again. Alright, 5 mana, Diregraph Horde would be a big play here. There isn't really a reason for them to cast it pre-combat, so they could still have it here. I certainly hope not, but they could. They could have an instant speed removal spell here, and they kill 2 ants at the price of 1, but that's not really like a winning play. That just kind of helps them a bit, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 more ants coming up. These ants are pretty expendable. If the ant just trades off for a removal spell, I'm happy. And it does. And so they're tapped out, so we definitely get to cast a spell here, uncountered. Don't have the mana for Seize the Storm, so another Rise of the Ants it is. It's between that and Startle. Rise of the Ants definitely much bigger than Startle. So rise those ants out onto the board, get the Trampler sending in. Keep pushing in with that giant Seize the Storm token. Alright, we are trampling over for 5 here, but they are getting a Disturb card into their graveyard they can recast. We get to tap down one of their creatures again here and hold up 2 ants to block with again. So we tap down the Falcon Abomination, I suppose. Get ready to block an Awoken Demon. Or an Ecstatic Awakener to force them to spend their mana into it even if they don't want to. So there's a Shipwreck Sifters. Sure. Draw a card, discard a card from our opponent. They do discard a Disturb card that they could cast on the board, so that does make it a 2/3. I guess they attack with both demons here if we tap down Abomination, or they could attack with both demons here if I tap down Abomination. The demons are better blockers than the Abomination. Now I am trying to push in trample damage, so I am actually going to tap down the 4/4. Awoken Demon here. Alright, they just attack for 2 in the sky. And Hobbling Zombie is the play. They have 3 blockers here. We do hit a land to Seize the Storm. So they can trample, trade off with our... or they trade off with their Trampler with that Hobbling Zombie, but we still trample over for 4 there. We could Startle so that they don't trade off with it, but then we aren't casting another Elemental here. But that's probably okay, because then we still have an Elemental on board that would be just as big as if we had cast Seize the Storm, and that way we could draw into another card off of Startle, plus we get a Decayed Zombie to attack in for more, potentially. We could alternatively just tap down the Death Toucher here, but then we're not blocking super well, and I'm still a little worried about blocking. Do we have any way to find lethal? They have 3 blockers. We could tap down one. If we just attack with everybody, they have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 toughness to block trample. They block all the trample, take 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They would take exact lethal if they block the Trampler with everybody. What happens if they don't block the Trampler? They take 6 from the Trampler, block a 3/3, a 3/3, and a 2/2. Block a 3/3, 3/3, 2/2, take 6, 7, 8, 9. They do not die. We can make it 10 damage by casting Startle, but that wouldn't be lethal. So if they block an ant, and a 2/2, they would survive. So we don't have lethal here if they make the correct block. But do they have lethal on the crackback if they don't? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 if somehow some creatures survive. They don't. So I kind of want to just attack with everybody. Maybe they'll mess up on blocks here. Maybe Startle will draw an instant or sorcery. Could be super wrong though. Attacking with just the elemental's pretty dang safe. Sure, yeah, let's attack with just the elemental here. We could have maybe won there if we had attacked with everybody, but it would require them misplaying, and we are in Mythic, so It is more of a rarity than normal. Oh, we hit Geist Wave, so we would have had lethal then, because we did hit another instant to make that bigger, so no matter how they blocked, if we did draw another instant immediately, then we would have had lethal there, but I did take a peek through the deck list. I think we had a little too few instants to go that risky. We had like 1, 2, 3. We had, yeah, 3 left in the deck, so that was a bit risky for my bones, but a Geist Wave should make us pretty dang safe here, I think. To finish them off next turn. Alright, we are definitely tapping down an Awoken Demon and possibly a Flyer. I think just the Awoken Demon. Take the flyer damage here. Take 2, we get to tap down another creature because we have 3 untapped creatures, and then we get to Geist Wave another blocker away. We should be really, really likely to find lethal here. So a Shipwreck Sifters for another blocker for our opponent. They do discard another Disturb card, so kind of like blue-black Disturb here. I like the deck. It makes their other Sifters even bigger, and they have the mana to cast 2 Hook Haunt Drifters now. So they're going to have a ton of blockers here. They choose to only cast 1 and hold the 2 mana up, so they must have like a Geist Wave to bounce our Trampler here. That's a big bummer if they do. Well, they don't have the 3 mana to sack a thing to Awakener, so their biggest blocker is the 3/4 Shipwreck Sifters, so we will tap that down. We Geist Wave 1 blocker, and they have 2 creatures that can legally block. If they bounce this, block these 2, they still take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They still die. If they have a removal spell... Yeah, if they have a removal spell and block everywhere on board, they still die. So I believe we're bouncing Sifters here. Right? Block, block. This is dead. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so just bounce a card here. Attack all. Another Seize the Storm and Grave, I suppose. Pretty good, but we'll just attack all. I guess I should have Arcane Infusion pre-combat in case we hit some kind of ridiculous sorcery. But yeah, looks like a win there, heading into number 523, ranked Mythic 3-0 with the Flashback 3-color deck. Well, I don't know what to say. Super happy here. I guess that's that pretty much sums it up. I really like this deck. It's super fun to play with. Bunch of ants everywhere, and obviously we are just in the gravy train, winning a lot of games here, so we'll go for it. This hand's a little awkward, but our main 2 colors in hand with a little bit of interaction. Don't think it's worth a mulligan. Just not doing anything proactive here, but that's okay. That's all right. So I believe our opponent took a mulligan already, so they will be down to a 6-card hand here. They are on the play, starting with a green into a Death Bonnet Sprout. Could be a similar deck here. They're definitely milling themselves with that little card, regardless. Green and red, a Brimstone Vandal being the first card milled off of the Death Sprout Bonnet, or Death Bonnet Sprout, whichever one. So we get to hold up a Geist Wave here, but not much else. We did draw a Dawnheart Rejuvenator. That'll give us the red mana that we need for the Seize the Storm. Our opponent is stuck on mono green here with this Death Bonnet Sprout and 3 forests. But we know that they are playing red. So they are stuck on colors here for now. Alright, pretty good draw. Considers a great draw because now we can counter spell if they do cast one, and if they don't, we still get to just cast a draw spell and do something with our mana and our time. So they play the 4th land, attack in for 1 here. We'll see what happens post-combat. Dawnheart Rejuvenator, more than enough of a threat to counter with Flip the Switch when they are stuck on mono green for now. Like to keep them off their second color, and we draw another counter spell. Would I rather do that or cast a Dawnheart Rejuvenator? If I cast Dawnheart Rejuvenator, we know we're going to cast Seize the Storm, but it'll just be a 2/2 trample right now. It's not the highest impact card here, so I'm just going to hold on to the counter spell. And we might be countering something here, and if we don't, we'll just consider. And that will fill our grave a bit more for Seize the Storm to be bigger later. And this is a deck where we want to hold on to our Decayed Zombie tokens because we have double Scab Wrangler to use them to tap things down. And they're just going to pass the turn here. Let's go ahead and consider then. Rise of the Ants. I'd rather draw that, cast it twice, than just throw it in the grave to cast it once. And we'll see what we draw for turn. Mountain, the red source for the Seize the Storm, so we can just cast Seize the Storm this turn anyway if we really want to. A little weird they didn't cast anything there. Maybe just a bunch of burn spells in their hand, some removal or something like that. Seize the Storm's pretty great on board, and worst case scenario, our elemental gets killed or something here. We just cast Rise of the Ants next turn. Yeah, pretty happy to Seize the Storm here. Put the shields down. The only thing we're unhappy with is if they have like a mythic rare planeswalker in hand, and that's why they didn't want to run it out, because we had a bit of mana up. Like if they just tap out for some super ridiculous bomb here, we're a bit sad, but otherwise we're pretty fine. Yeah, so they do just have the 1/1 removal for the elemental token, so we are still just taking 1. They have 2 creatures in their grave. Once they get 1 more creature in grave, the Death Bonnet Sprout will turn into a 3/3. A little scarier, but by that point we'll have plenty of value just casting a ton of flashback stuff and having tons of stuff on board again, as we tend to do. So there's the Death Bonnet Hulk as a 3/3 now. It gets bigger and bigger and exiles cards from the graveyard, so if it attacks in, we are definitely trading with it, because that can exile our flashback stuff from our graveyard, so it does give us a hard time. So I'll still super free to just take those Moonrage Slash trades. I think we're actually going to bounce the Death Bonnet Hulk to make it take them another turn before they start exiling our cards. 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess 7 mana. We could just cast Seize the Storm and let them get rid of Rise of the Ants. We don't really want to let them get rid of anything, and if we Geist Wave the Hulk here, we get to Devious Cover Up, so it doesn't come back. We take 6 if we do that, but we can afford to do that if we're getting more Ants and a big Elemental. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana here. 2 mana to Geist Wave and just hold up Devious Cover Up. Take 6 on board, I guess. So Owl, they might not cast anything here, because then they'll flip the Burly Breaker, and they got to be pretty certain I have a counterspell here if I'm playing like that. I'm not going to shuffle anything back in because I want our elemental to be as big as possible, but I am definitely going to counter that. We'll see what they have afterwards. Candlelit Cavalry being the draw. A 5/5 here, not great for us, but we've got another Rise of the Ants, so we'll have plenty of blockers. 4, 6, 7. We have the 8 mana here, so I think I'd rather flash back the first Rise rather than cast this one right now. Seize the Storm would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'd be a 6/6. We could block the Candlelit Cavalry with that, but we could also just double block either of them with Rise of the Ants to kill them. I guess if we cast this Rise of the Ants, then by casting Seize the Storm next turn, we'll have a 7/7 out. So then we cast this, double block whatever attacks. Next turn, just cast a 7/7. Yes, sure, let's cast this Rise of the Ants. Bird Admirer. 1/4 that turns into a 3/5 during the night. It also has reach. Alright, Candlelit Cavalry has Covenant. It's got that trample going on, but we'll take the 1-for-1 trade here. Trade a 3/3 into their 5/5 unless they drew another Moonrager Slash. And they have really been getting there with those slashes, but it looks like no Moonrager Slash here, but Kessig Naturalist. Scab Wrangler's such a great draw here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. However, that is the biggest draw that would have played well to holding Rise of the Ants in hand, because then we could cast Wrangler and Rise of the Ants. We can't do that here with our current mana, but we could cast Rejuvenator and Scab Wrangler. We cast Rejuvenator, Scab Wrangler, we could tap down the Burly Breaker and hold a 3/3 to block so they can't attack in well. And then next turn we play Rise of the Ants, and Rise of the Ants with the Scab Wrangler on board's pretty fantastic. Costs 1 mana to tap this down, right? Yeah, Ward 1. So 6 mana for this, 1 mana to resolve the tapping. Yeah, I think we do this, and then we start playing Rise of the Ants next turn, and all the ants just start tapping any important creatures they have, and we gain more life and get 3/3s on the board. We have things really locked up if they don't just, like, exile our whole graveyard next turn, pretty much. I think our 2/4 is less important than our 3/3, so we're going to keep the 2/4 untapped here. In case they have a combat trick to win the fight if they attack in here. Sure, it gives us an extra mana, but the odds of us getting enough mana to cast 2 of these in 1 turn are just infinitesimally small. But having the extra power means that it stacks in better for double blocks. And it can also kill the flipped side of this card by itself. Alright, so they just passed the turn there, so Rise of the Ants would take all of our mana. We could also Seize the Storm and hold 1 up for a larger zombie. We get just as many creatures, but we don't gain any life. We're at 10, so that's okay. We're casting 2 spells this way to flip it back to day, so this is probably better. Flip things back to daytime. Oh, actually with Rejuvenator, we could have cast Rise of the Ants here, but then we'd have 1 less blocker, 1 less creature to tap things down, so I think I prefer this. But yeah, we could have cast 2 spells either way. To flip back to daytime. Yeah, I still prefer this because we're tapping 2 creatures down now. We tap 1 down when they go to attacks, and then we tap another down for blocks. See what they have here with their 1 card in hand. If they kill our 7/7, that's a bad time because we don't have the mana to pay for the ward cost of the flip half. Duel for dominance. Well, they definitely win that fight. Yeah, we can't change that combat anyway, so that works. Alright, I guess we're just tapping 1 creature down here. I guess we can tap the Burly Breaker down because we do have the 1 mana to tap it down with Rejuvenator, but it'll cost us the Rejuvenator. So we go like tap these 3 and the Rejuvenator, then we still have a 3/3 to block either of those. Yeah, because we don't have good blocks for Burly Breaker. So, I think that is the best tap down still. Alright, Organ Hoarder is the draw here. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. We can cast Rise of the Ants or we can cast Organ Hoarder. I think Rise of the Ants for just guaranteed good blocks on board, it is. We can't tap down the Demolisher though, because we're not casting 2 spells here, so it is going to have Ward 3, and it has 9 toughness. I guess Organ Hoarder is the only way we can tap down the Demolisher, because we'll have 3 mana up. And if we just play 2 3/3s here, like how do we block this? We block it with 3 3/3s? It's okay, but not excellent. I think I'd rather still be tapping it. So just play Organ Hoarder here and see what we hit. If we hit another spell, that's excellent. We are looking 3 cards deep. Another Organ Hoarder? Sure. I think I like that better than Slogurk. So another Organ Hoarder it is. Now we've cast 2 spells, so we're going back to daytime. Grab a Flip the Switch or another Wrangler or a land. Flip the Switch doesn't seem awesome at this point. They do only have 6 mana, so Flip the Switch could be okay, but another Wrangler is redundant unless they kill the first. If they have any more removal, I think the most likely card for them to shoot is the Wrangler, so I guess we'll get a backup Wrangler here. With the Rise of the Ants Engrave, like, we're so unlikely to have any mana held up for counter spells. Everything just costs so much mana right now. We need to pay for this ward cost. We need to pay 8 mana for the Rises. Maybe, like, Strong a Land wouldn't have been bad there off the Organ Hoarders if we chose that instead. So when they damage us, they draw a card, but they're not really going to damage us, so that's fine. All right. We might not even want to tap Burly Breaker anymore, because now we just double block Burly Breaker with 2 3/2s. The 1/4 comes in, we block it with a 3/3 and a 1/3, and it kills nothing. The 2/2 comes in, and we block it with a 2/4. Yeah, we're so safe we're not even tapping anything down now. Yeah, I think we're pretty good. When things go to night, it's not going to be good, because they can give their stuff +X and trample, make something a super big, super massive attacker, but as long as it's daytime, we're pretty safe. All right, so let's 2, 3. We have 7, so we can definitely tap 2 things down, including the ward creature. So we will do that in case we wish to attack. I guess we could Larder Zombie instead. That might be better. Yeah, we're still not super likely to attack. Let's actually Larder Zombie. I probably should have done that instead. Just look at the top card, maybe put in the grave. Memory Deluge? I don't want to put that in the grave. I want to cast that thing. That gives us double spells to cast next turn very easily. 8. Yeah, so we just play Rise of the Ants this turn. They pass to flip to night, and then we just go Memory Delusion, whatever we draw into. Could start attacking here, I think. Because during the day, we block pretty well. Could at least attack with like a single 3/3. We have 9 creatures. Tap 2 things down. Tap Burly Breaker and Tovolar. Just attack with a 3. I guess we don't really attack it unless we attack with multiple 3-power creatures. I'm not sure we're at that point yet. We'll give it another turn here. Wait, what? I cast a spell. Oh my god, I forgot about Tovolar's sick ability. If they control 3 or more werewolves, they just flip to night no matter what. Oh, good lord. Yeah, Tovolar destroyed me in the past, and I completely forgot how it did that. It's because of that effect. Even if I cast stuff, it just goes to night. Disgusting. So they get that +X/+O no matter what. They give +4 in trample here. I can't tap down the Demolisher now? Good god. So now because of the +X and trample, it's actually just better to hold everything back to block. Am I just getting demolished by a Tovolar again then? Good gravy. I guess we are. I guess Tovolar just wins. I totally forgot about that. That is disgusting. God, what a mana sink. All right. I guess we are quite dead. It's 10 power. They buff it up to 14. They don't buff the toughness at all, though, so we can triple block to get that off the board. If we get enough werewolves off the board eventually, like we're getting there, we're blocking with 9 toughness. If they buff it for 4, we take, let's see, 14 minus 9, we take 5. That's fine. Yeah. Take 5 here, I guess. They're drawing a card off Tovolar, but that's 1 werewolf down. If we kill 1 more werewolf, Tovolar doesn't flip all the time anymore. I don't think it's worth it to block with any more. The biggest reason would be if they have more removal. We've already seen them cast double Duel for Dominance, double Moonrager Slash. I feel like removal's a little unlikely. And if they have it, they probably just shoot Wrangler with it. Ooh, they don't give it trample, so they get no damage in. So they do not draw a card there. All right, not bad at all. We cleared out one werewolf. We need to clear out just one more to stop this from flipping. All right. Probably go for Larder Zombie here, because now that they have that trample ability, we're so not attacking. It's not funny. Do I want that land? Not really. I do want to cast 2 spells here, but I'm probably just going to lose Wrangler. So, we're going low on our cards in library here. We might just mill ourselves to death. That is one thing to consider, but still got more than 10, so I'm going to keep doing it for now. But we've already cast our 1 cover-up, so we got to keep that in mind. Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can cast Rise of the Ants and Wrangler if I play this land, or I can just play Wrangler Deluge. I think I would prefer Rise of the Ants Wrangler here to have more blockers, to be able to make the double blocks, to kill any werewolves that are attacking. Deluge next turn. We've got rid of their ward creature. We have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 creatures out. We can tap down 2 cards. Tovolar going off here. Tovolar does buff itself, but we could tap down the other 2 creatures and force them to attack with Tovolar if they want to get that attack in. Silverbolt is not nice. Now I can't really tap 2 things, because if I tap 2 things, they can kill a blocker in response to us blocking. If they just main phase kill a Wrangler, I'm pretty happy with them killing something main phase, because then double blocks are a lot easier. So it just makes things simpler for me. Looks like they might be changing their mind here. Drawing a card off the Foragers. Okay, so they don't have the mana to give something trample now, so we just kind of don't even tap something. Yeah, they play a wolf. Oh, they play a wolf, so we need to kill 2 more wolves or werewolves to shut off Tovolar. We've only cast 1 Seize the Storm, so we have 2 more in our deck. Those would be massive here. I don't know exactly how big, but they'd be pretty big creatures. Enough to close out the game and just like 2 attacks from one of them, I'm pretty sure. So I think that's our biggest out here, and with Memory Deluge, we're pretty likely to be able to draw into those. All right. I still don't like Tovolar being on this board, but now that I think of it, Seize the Storm is like such a big draw here. I think the Seize the Storm blockers are even big enough to single-handedly block whatever amount of trample they're going to be putting out. So it's okay that we can't clear out all the wolves. Still scared, but we have great draws potentially coming up. To the point where I think we're still milling ourselves with Larder Zombie, if it's not a Seize the Storm. Root Coil Creeper, though? Root Coil Creeper, though. We'll keep Root Coil Creeper. Root Coil Creeper throws our exiled Seize the Storm in our hand, so it's a slower Seize the Storm, but it's still a Seize the Storm. And now we do... Well, they cast 2 spells, so we don't need to cast 2 spells. And either way, they flip back today, so... Let's Memory Deluge. See if we can hit a Seize the Storm. If we hit one, we're just going to cast one. If we don't, we're going to Root Coil Creeper. All right, we hit a Seize the Storm. And we get a land. I could choose not to prevent milling, but these are going to definitely kill our opponent more than fast enough to not worry about the mill. So grab another red source so I could flash them back more easily. Maybe cast 2 in 1 turn if we draw another copy. Oh yeah, that's a 10-10 here, and we have the mana for Root Coil Creeper. Alright, excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We are passing the turn. Tovolar's going off, but we've got more than enough blocks at the ready. Stop whatever trample they want to put. But if they spread it all out, that'll be still pretty dangerous. Silverbolt on a Scab Wrangler here, I guess. They could bolt the Creeper. Because the Wranglers, as long as we have one, they're doing all the work they need to. Famished Foragers. Discard a card, draw a card again. They are digging. 12 cards left in their library, 8 in ours. But again, we have Seize the Storm flashback here for another 10/10, and we have another copy of Seize the Storm in this deck, so I'm fairly certain we can close things out and do not have to worry about the mill game. But I probably don't want to get so active with our larger zombie anymore. At least there's that much. So they have spent their 1 red mana, so we're not worrying about trample, so we're just letting anything in. Alright, and they just go to the end step. We can tap 3 things down here and get a really easy attack in. So we're going to go for that rather than mill ourselves. Just make it 100% likely our 10/10 gets in without dying. Oh, I tapped the larger zombie. Oops. But there's the next Seize the Storm, so I guess, you know, theoretically worth it here. We guaranteed the next Seize the Storm. Yeah, but now they can actually triple block and kill our 10/10. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Give +2 power to the wolf. But, I mean, if we're killing their board and clearing all their wolves out, we're just winning either way. So we're okay with the triple block to kill the elemental, but that was definitely a misclick there, meant to just tap down that and the 4/3, and then they only have 5 power. 5 buff it for +2 and Silverbolt, but they don't have the mana to do both, so they have no way to kill the elemental if we go that way. So here we just attack with elemental, and then make another one with Seize the Storm, I think. They're just going to take 10, sure. So we have enough to cast this, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana left. We don't have enough mana to then Root Coil Creeper to pick up another and cast that. As cool as that would be. So I guess we're just casting that. Root Coil Creeper does give us 2 mana to flashback a card. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have enough to flashback a Deluge or a Seize the Storm, so just use Root Coil Creeper to cast another Seize the Storm, actually. So we do get to double Seize the Storm. We just don't get to pick up a 3rd Seize the Storm. Alright, and they're just going to scoop them up. Because, like, on board, that's 3 10/10s, and then if we sacrifice the Root Coil Creeper and bring back one of the exiled Seize the Storms, it's 2 more 10/10s. We have another 10/10 in grave. Yeah, the Seize the Storms there really just close out the late game. That's ridiculous. Definitely not as good against, like, blue and black, but against red-green, where it's just damage-based removal, those gigantic creatures can get in there. I was really scared when we saw that Tovolar going off. The fact that I just could not get it to stop being nighttime, so that they would always have the ability to give something +X and trample to attack in and trade up, at the very least, made me pretty scared. But we always had a lot of creatures on board, so they were always worried about a crackback, and yeah, luckily enough, just always had enough creatures to block well. Excuse me. So we are now heading into round 5, undefeated, 4-0 here. This deck has taken us from Diamond Tier 1 all the way into the top 500 Mythic. Really fun 3-color flashback deck here. And let us see how things go in round 5. We are on the play, a great 2-drop into 3-drop curve. Great 4-mana card too, the Memory Deluge, and we get to hold that up while holding up a Flip the Switch if something bad happens. Really, really enjoy this hand. Turn 2 Wrangler, turn 3 Archivist, turn 3 having the ability to hold up a counterspell and have a backup plan. Seems awesome. Or I guess turn 4, holding up the counterspell. Alright, well, we're definitely not attacking into that thing. We will draw discard up with our Archivist here. I do want all the lands to make it to this Rise of the Ants, so do we discard the Flip the Switch? I really don't think we discard the Flip the Switch. I think I'm going to discard this island, and then we'll have our double green ready for Rise of the Ants next turn. We'll have double green, double blue. And then if we don't end up countering something with Flip the Switch, we can use Memory Deluge to draw the next lands we need, which actually seems really good now, because now we need to dig for a red source, and digging 4 cards deep can definitely put in some work towards doing that. So I'm actually not going to attack here, although the trade of Archivist into the Angler wouldn't be that bad, because we both get to disturb them back. We both get some value out of that, but it wouldn't be great, so just not going to attack, and they just pass the turn, so Memory Deluge it is. Come on, a mountain would be excellent, but any lands are great here. All right, mountain, beautiful. We do want a 6th mana as well, so let's grab another green source or blue source here. I guess another green source, I'm feeling it for Rise of the Ants, because it could be quadruple green to cast and flashback, although that would also be 12 mana. No, that'd be 16 mana. 6 plus 8, 14 mana. Just did my math wrong 3 times in a row, no big deal. Yeah, it's not super likely we need triple green or triple blue. We'll just grab the green there. We do hit another green, punished. Hard punished. So we play the red source, and we could make a 2/2 with Seize the Storm. It does get bigger throughout the game, so it's fine to put it out here. They just have 4 blue mana here. Until they hit their next color, I think we're fine to Seize the Storm here. I guess they could have Counterspell for Seize the Storm. But again, it's just a 2/2 right now, so it's not the biggest blowout if they counter it. But I would be sad because we, of course, being the builders of this deck, know how big that can get later on. Our opponent doesn't necessarily know. They're like, that's just a 2/2 right now. That might not be a problem. So, looks like it doesn't draw a Counterspell, regardless of if they had one or not. They are going to combat. Let's tap down the Angler, because I don't want them to attack with it, even though it would not be a bad attack for them. They only have 2 mana up, so they can't counter something, so Rise of the Ants it is. Excellent. Now this is a 3/3 trample that gets in without dying in combat. Start getting really aggressive here because we tap down one of their creatures each turn, and then we start attacking with 3/3s as well, probably. If they have a bounce spell on the elemental token is always a good deal. They're going to combat. We have 3/3s out, so we don't need to tap till the end step. End step, we will tap one of those, so the 3/3s get in. They can't double block a 3/3 anymore. This is one of the weirdest uses of Scab Wrangler. Usually that Scab Wrangler going off with all the decayed zombie tokens and stuff, but here in our deck, Scab Wrangler is going to go off with a bunch of ants. Just have our ants tap the board down. Nebelgast Intruder, alright. We could counter that. If we counter that, we can still cast a Root Coil Creeper or a Scab Wrangler. It's pretty fine. But their shields are down. We know they don't have a counterspell if we want to just cast like a Seize the Storm, so I think I'd rather do that. Because they still just have 1 toughness creatures to block with, so what do they double block here? And we still kill the flyer? Yeah, this is super fine. No need to counter this. Let's just cast something big while their shields are down instead. I kind of think I'd rather Seize the Storm. I guess it's just a 3/3 trampler here. So Rise of the Ants is actually bigger. Oh, we don't have the mana for Rise of the Ants. What am I talking about? Yeah, just Seize the Storm. We need another mana to Rise of the Ants again. We're at 7 mana, not 8 mana. Alright, pass turn, tap down a 2/1, attack with the field again, see if they cast a counterspell. If they do, shields are down for another casting of Rise of the Ants. Revenge the Drowned to kill the Elemental. We can counter that and keep it around, and that'll be a 4/4 now. Actually a little bit interested in that here. Yeah, I'm actually interested in that here. Because it's a trampler and they have 1 toughness creatures, and this is adding to its power. So I'm actually going to do that over the Rise of the Ants. Alright, they go to 1. They pretty much need a board wipe. So we will see what they've got. Well, they've drawn their second color of mana. Too late in the game, though, so they're just going to scoop them up. Certainly a pretty bad time for our opponent, but that will push us into Mythic 241, so a pretty great time for us with the flashback deck. And that's actually 5-0, not 4-0, so 5-0 now. We are in the money, regardless of what happens from this point on. We are getting 1,600 gems back out of this 1,500 gem draft. And of course, we got to get all that gameplay in there, which was quite fun. Going to start getting a little bit of a waiting period here. We are in the upper Mythic now with a really high win rate deck, so I would expect our opponents we're getting paired against are going to be very, very high win rate. So it's time for some really tough matches coming up. That is the other thing that is always nerve-wracking about being in Mythic. You're going to be playing against the cream of the crop in terms of the best limited players on Arena, as well as the matchmaking can get you there. But yeah, regardless of what happens here, I'm super happy for a multitude of reasons. We made it to Mythic. We're playing a really fun deck strategy, and we're already in the money. We're getting plenty of gems out of this. So we'll keep this hand here. We're going to go Island turn 1, turn 2, drop a Scab Wrangler, holding up Geist Wave. We've got our great turn 4, where we get to hold up a counterspell, and then if we don't need it, cast a Memory Deluge. Always awesome to be able to do that. Our opponent is starting things off with Voldaren Stinger. Our 2-1 Scab Wrangler is going to be a terrible blocker for that, since that is a 1-1 with First Strike while it's attacking. So we just don't get to make any good blocks for quite a while. Playing against a red and black here, so likely the Vampire aggro deck, and there it is, the Vampire Socialite, a 2-2 menace that puts a +1/+1 counter onto all of their vampires when it comes into play if they dealt damage. This Wrangler is not going to block well, but it could trade into Socialite if they take the block here, so I am going to send in the attack and potentially stop some of their aggro here, because again, it's not going to block well. If it blocks the First Striker, it dies. It can't block a Menacer. So we're just going in for the attack with Wrangler there, hoping to clear out the Socialite. Because we know how powerful our deck is in the late game, we're going to do everything we can to survive until then, including throwing away decent cards like Scab Wrangler. So I don't think we block here or Geist Wave. I think we just hold up Flip the Switch and counter whatever they play here to stop more creatures from coming out. Double black for Interloper, sure. If they're trying to sneak in a 1 red mana card here, then so be it. It gets in. Voldaren Stinger, and that's fine. I think Interloper was worse for us. That'd be a 3-2 flyer. Both of these are pretty bad for us, though. So now I think we still attack with Scab Wrangler, and we're happy with the trade because we just don't have blocks. We just do not have blocks for Scab Wrangler. We don't attack with a Decayed Zombie, though, because it'll just die, and if we get one more creature, we do start tapping things down, which is pretty important. So we could Geist Wave here, but I'm going to Memory Deluge, probably. Just hold up Cover Up if we need it. If we don't need Cover Up, we just Memory Deluge. But this is quite the start from our opponent. Their Vampire Socialite turning all of their 1-mana 1-1s into 1-mana 2-2s with First Strike on attacking, so just a very aggressive start with the Socialite. Putting a ton of pressure onto us early here. So we are taking 6, going down to 9 life. Siege Zombie. Ooh, that is a bummer. That is a ton of pressure too. Puts another 2 damage onto us every turn they attack, and if we do somehow stabilize, they're just going to keep damaging us with that. I feel like we have to counter that, but I think they're also just setting it in as bait for a better vampire. If they just have a better vampire, we're super dead because we can only counter one either way. Like if we just let this resolve and then counter their next spell, they still have 8 damage on the board. So I think we are countering this. I guess we could Geist Wave plus Consider here. Well, let's let that happen. If they play a better spell, we cover up. If they don't play a better spell, we just Geist Wave. It's the same thing as if we had countered that, and we Consider. Yeah, we just slow them down this way a little. It's their end step, so they can't recast it. Let's Consider. We do want the land, kind of. Like, it's not going to save us right now, but I feel like the only ways that are going to save us are, like, Rise of the Ants. Like, gain life, get multiple 3/3s out. I feel like Rise of the Ants is our biggest way to survive here, and the only way to cast a Rise of the Ants is to have 6 lands out, so maybe we keep the island here, but we also do need another forest, so like if we keep this island, then draw another island or mountain, we still can't cast Rise of the Ants, so it's not helping us that much. So I'm actually going to throw this in the grave. Let's see. We do it a mountain. We hit a Root Coil Creeper. We tap down 1 creature here. We tap down the Menace and just take at least 4 from the Stingers. If they buff 1, we take 5. I think this is just too fast of a deck for us. Yeah, Creeper just does not help that much. We're stopping 2 damage total by putting a Creeper on this board. So I guess we're passing for Cover Up or Memory Deluge here. I guess Memory Deluge being the best play because we could hit Forest Rise of the Ants. But we don't have any good blocks here. All we can do is Trump Block. And we'll have to Trump Block to not die because we take 6 and then they can get 2 more power. I guess we would take 8. We wouldn't die if we don't block, but we'd go to 1 life. I'm really feeling like it's Trump Block time here. Yeah, so I mean, at this point, if I just counter Siege Zombie, I'm just drawing blind with these 2 cards in hand. We're never winning that game. We have like maybe a 1% chance of winning if we draw Rise of the Ants here, so I'll just try to draw the Rise of the Ants. I think we're dead on board even if we draw Rise of the Ants, though. Well, we definitely are now, good lord. I guess we gotta cover up. But now we have no outs, because even if we hit Rise of the Ants, we don't have the mana to cast it. Yeah, no, we're mega dead. This puts us to 3 against 4 creatures, one of which is Menace. None of these are good draws here. This Geist Wave would be okay, but none of them save us. So let's just not shuffle anything back in and see what we draw off the top. Forest, we can play Root Coil Creeper and we can cast Memory Deluge. So we play Creeper, block the Stinger, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that does not get there. Maybe we draw a 2-mana bonkers spell, but we don't have anything big enough for 2 to save us there. Well, Rise of the Ant sees the storm, but this matchup, this deck from our opponent is just too quick to cast those Haymaker flashback spells that we have built our deck around. So that is going to be the first loss with the deck, putting us down to Mythic 389 there. 5-1 we go. Just the very nice aggressive Vampires deck with a very good start as well. The 1-mana 1/1s becoming 1-mana 2/2s with First Strike being just super, super aggressive there. And we are playing quite the slow deck here. So we are we are heading into round 7 now. 5 wins and 1 loss. Again, I'm super happy with this draft, whatever happens. It's been fun. We've got into Mythic, we've gotten our gems back. But obviously living the dream and getting the 7-win run with this flashback deck would be awesome. I think this deck's really good and it's been really fun, so So I would like to try to get the 7-win run here up in Mythic if we can. Just really show this deck the support that it deserves, I think. Just because this deck is super fun. It would be an awesome 7-win deck if we get there. So here we are in round 7. Our opponent has played double white to start off. So they're definitely playing white. Don't know what the other colors are, but we've got an excellent hand in terms of our mana. Just naturally drew blue, green, and red here. If they flash in the 3-1 and trade here, we're very happy with that, because we're just trying to survive to the long game again, so clearing out 3-power creatures early on is fine by us, and most importantly, we have a backup Scab Wrangler, which is excellent. So we get to play the turn 3 Slogurk here. Turn 3 Slogurk into turn 4 Organ Hoarder. Often a good deal, because if we play the Organ Hoarder and mill a couple land cards, that Slogurk is going to be even bigger. It's going to be a 4/4 or 5/5 trample. So we'll see what we hit here on turn 4. Our opponent is unfortunately stuck on 2 mana here, just double white from them. 2 plains and a Candlegrove Witch. So our start is really going to gonna punish them for that, because we are going to hit a land every turn, and we're going to turn that Slogurk into a 5/5 trample for only 3 mana. So we do need to hit another green source for Rise of the Ants, but we have Memory Deluge to help do that, looking at the top 4 and putting 2 into our hand. So we have just the guaranteed land drops coming up. If we just naturally draw a forest, I'll probably just play a Scab Wrangler instead of a Deluge, but it might still be worth it to Memory Deluge there. So turn 3 here, our opponent only missed 1 land drop, so maybe they can get back into it here with a Mountain turn 3 for their red-white deck. Do I want to trade with Candlegrove Witch? Yeah, I mean, I think we have late-game stuff on lock, but we can still just hit in for 3 here. They're down to 15 already. We'd put them down to 12. I actually think I'm weirdly enough on the aggressive here, which is not a usual thing for our deck. Alright, Falconwrath Perforator there, another creature to follow up with, is going to make that not as good, because we're not going to want to attack into that. So we would have liked to just take the trade there. So we could just cast Dawnheart Rejuvenator. That guarantees the mana we need for Rise of the Ants next turn if they don't kill the Rejuvenator, and it gets a really big blocker on the board, so they're likely not hitting us. And yeah, I guess if I'm happy with taking those trades on blocks, I might as well actually attack in with the Organ Hoarder now that I think of it, because we're going to play a creature that blocks super well here anyway, so we don't need the 3/2 blocker. So yeah, I guess casting Memory Deluge here, we're more likely to cast Rise of the Ants next turn, because I feel like the odds of them having removal for Rejuvenator are higher than the odds of us not having a green source in our top 4. That being said, kind of like the risk-reward line here, this line is really good if they don't kill Rejuvenator, because we gain extra life, stop all of their attacks this turn. There's a lot of ways this works better, and we do hit the Rise of the Ants mana because they did not kill Rejuvenator. So let's gain some more life, get some 3/3s out. Each half of Rise of the Ants, each 3/3 trades for a whole card out of their deck. So Rise of the Ants is excellent in this kind of matchup. Being a 2-for-1 and then flash it back, another 2-for-1 potentially. So Gavany Silversmith is going to turn on their Coven to be attacking in the sky if they wish, but then they have less creatures to block with. They do have Silversmith to block with here, to block our 3/3s, but if we play a Scab Wrangler here to tap that down, they won't be able to do that anymore. We have 7 mana here, so not quite enough to recast Rise of the Ants, but we have enough mana to cast Death Bonnet Sprout, Scab Wrangler, and Memory Deluge. So that seems pretty excellent to me. No real reason not to cast all of these, and by casting Scab Wrangler, we get to get aggressive here and tap down Silversmith to attack in for 6. Just tap down our creatures that aren't going to block well anyway, like Wrangler's not going to block, the 1/1's not going to block, and I guess Slogurk, if they want to get it out of the way, they can just spend the 3 mana and exile it, so it's probably not going to block either. With 3/3s, or with a 2/4 to block, we're pretty safe, even if that's tapped down. So send in those 3/3s, see if we take a trade here. If not, we're hitting for 6, putting them down to 9 life, and we're still at 21 here. We have a 2/4 to block their 3/4, but we might take 6 here if they attack with everybody. We take 4 from Celestial Sanctifier, 2 from Candlegrove Witch, and they have chosen to go ahead and exile our Slogurk. So do get some lands back from our grave. Might as well. From the Slogurk leaving the battlefield trigger, so that's a pretty good deal. Immolation to kill the Wrangler so we can't tap things down anymore. Some pretty good stuff from our opponent here, definitely making the effort to get our board cleared to get their early aggressive creatures back in the driver's seat. But hopefully Memory Deluge draws us some good cards, and then we still have plenty to cast after this. Plenty to get on the board here, and it certainly does with a Seize the Storm. Devious Cover-Up keeps us pretty safe, but we're not going to have the mana to hold that up if we're casting cards like Seize the Storm and Rise of the Ants and flashing them back on all of that. So I almost think I'd rather Geist Wave or Overwhelmed Archivist here. What are we casting next turn? We have 8 mana to Rise of the Ants. We could cast Rise of the Ants, but we could also spend 5 on Seize the Storm and 3 on Archivist and cast those 2. That actually seems pretty sick to me. I'm going to go for that. And of course the Death Bonnet Hulk is flipping here too. So we have another great attacker. We don't get to tap down their board though. So just Seize the Storm. That is a 3/3 right now. Turns into a 4/4 after we put one more instant or sorcery in our grave. We could cast Archivist or we could hold up Flip the Switch. It's going to be a little weird, but I'm just going to hold up Flip the Switch. I think we have plenty blockers to defend really well here, and if we just take 2 from Candlegrove Witch, that's fine. So I'm just going to play the really long game here, the really safe game, and have a counterspell up if they do something to try to kill our Hulk or anything crazy. Because they are eyeballing the Hulk now, so maybe that's their plan here. It is going to keep getting bigger. It turns into a 4/4 next turn after we exile their Falconwrath Perforator or Cathar Commando from their grave. Alright, so we're taking 2 down to 17. Do they cast anything here? Alright, they cast nothing, so just casting Archivist would have been better. They do Flip Tonight for the Sanctifier. But the other thing about holding up Flip the Switch there is I feel like that's like the one time I might actually counter something with it, because now this turn we're casting a 7 or 8 mana card. We won't have the 3 mana up to Flip the Switch. And then, you know, later in the game, after we've exiled all these, they'll just have enough mana to pay the 4 pretty easily. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana here. 9 mana. Probably just recasting Seize the Storm. Still don't think I'm attacking with Death Bonnet Hulk. I guess if I attack with Death Bonnet Hulk, they just block with... they block with the 4/3, and then my 3/3s still don't get in well. If I attack everybody, I hit for 5, but I do lose my 4/4 and 3/3, and they still have a 3/4. With another Rise of the Ants here, I mean, we're kind of good to attack all, and just push in for lethal in 2 turns here, now that I think of it. Like, we just attack everybody, they kill 2 of our attackers and take 5, and then we just play 2 more 3/3s and then attack everybody next turn and win. Yeah. Probably should have just been playing more aggressive here and just getting the 3/2 on board last turn. I think I've played this game a little inaccurately for sure. Playing it slower than I need to. Alright, well, Flip the Switch actually saves the day here and makes it lethal. So, you know, hindsight might not have been so bad to hold on to Flip the Switch there. It worked really well out of nowhere. So, I don't know. It's Magic is a difficult game. Every turn there's so many different lines and stuff you can take there, and then even retroactively looking back and seeing what lines would have been the best can be pretty nebulous at times. So, like, without the information of what our opponent had in hand, should we have held Flip the Switch there? I think still probably not, because just getting another 3/2 on board to attack all that turn, like we put them down to 1 if they have nothing, something like that. Of course, in hindsight, it panned out. We actually just hit them to lethal because they tried to use a removal spell to save themselves. But it's really difficult to figure out exactly what the greatest play on board would be in those situations without the knowledge of what our opponent has. Anyways, that does push us into, 6-1 now, heading into round 8. Only one loss for this super fun flashback deck. And a pretty great start here. We've got Consider to fill the grave with instants and sorceries for Seize the Storm. There's at least going to be one, so it'll be a 2-2 if nothing else. But hopefully with Larder Zombie as well, we can get more in the grave. And another Seize the Storm for later on. All right, I'll take it. Larder Zombie can also block some 2-2s in the early game, and we are playing against a red-white deck. It can block a 2-1 really well. That'll just stop that from attacking, period. We do want a green source, so I'm not going to throw that in the grave. We've got a lot of green cards in this deck. I think it's important to keep that forest. So I'm just going to cast Larder Zombie over the Scab Wrangler. We can sequence it a little weird here to have a good blocker for the Perforator. We can cast Wrangler next turn because we don't have a 3-mana card to play anyway. Alright, well, an aggressive start from our opponent. They're 3-mana, 2/3 flying haste, and it prevents damage. It prevents damage that would be dealt by our spells to their cards, and whenever they deal damage with their spells, it does an additional damage. So, scary card here. But as long as we can survive long enough, this is one of our hands where we certainly have our late game massive flashback stuff. So we're going to be going for it here. I like our opponent's username this game. Armadillo Vacuum. With a W in there, pretty adorable. Ambitious Farmhand is the play. I'm a big fan of the card. Grabs them a land and puts a creature on the board, and later in the game they might be able to turn it into a lifelinker. That part's unnecessary for it to be a pretty good deal. So Neonate's Rush is awesome with Rem Carless, because then the Neonate's Rush does 2 damage to a creature and 2 damage to your opponent's face. So that was a pretty big blowout there. But they could have killed the Scab Wrangler even without the Rem. They just got to do 1 extra damage to our face there. So Organ Hoarder's the play for this turn. We're trying to draw lands here. And flip the switch, I don't think we're going to have time for. We're just going to tap out for creatures next turn, so let's just grab the green source. Now we have the double green for Rise of the Ants. This is a matchup I'm really scared about. The aggressive decks are the decks that are the most likely to beat us. Ooh, that's disgusting. That might just put the nail in the coffin there. That really does. All right. Well, I don't think there's any line our deck can make against this start from an opponent to win this game. But yeah, that's brutal. Rem Carless with a double Neonate's Rush to do 2 damage to a creature and 2 to our face, plus Angel Fire Ignition here. +2/+2 permanently, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Indestructible, and Haste until end of turn, making all our blocks terrible, and we take 6 down to 5. Or we just stop 3 damage here. And they just recast the Angel Fire Ignition next turn and kill us with it there, so this is just guaranteed dead here. Yeah, that's just super dead. Like, we can play Creeper Wrangler, so we have 3 creatures out to tap whatever they ignition. But if they just ignition the Stalwart, then we tap everything and take 5. Go to dead. If we had blocked with Larder Zombie, we would be at 8 life here instead, but we would have no blockers on this board, so we just play like Seize the Storm for a 3/3, and then our 3/3, they just Angel Fire Ignition that. Our 3/3 blocks there. We take 1 damage, go down to 7. We get trampled over for 2 more counters at 6/3 there, so 3 for 5, 6. I guess we might survive with 1 life if I had blocked, but here we're just mega dead, because they can throw the counters onto the Realm in the sky and attack with Perforator. Perforator damages us for 1 when they attack, and Rem hits us for 4 in the sky. So our safest play is still to just slam 2 creatures onto this board, but we're still dead on board if our opponent sequences their spells correctly, or I guess just puts them on the right creatures here. And they could very well just have more removal in hand. Another Neonate's Rush, and we're absolutely demolished. They just go to combat. Alright, maybe we are surviving 1 more turn. Alright. Show us the fancy spells here, I guess. Like, this flips into a 3/3 lifelinker, I guess. They might want to do that with their mana. I wonder what they're playing around here for 1 red. I guess they're just going for more life gain here with farmhand. So we force them to spend 3 on farmhand if we just block it there. I guess we only lose 1 creature if we block like that. We kill that and lose 1 creature. And then there we force them to spend the 3. And also if we don't block, they spend the 3 and kill us, so we have to block there. Yeah, that's our best block. I'm assuming they just have lethal anyway. Because otherwise I feel like they would definitely just slam down an Angel Fire Ignition. But we'll see. So we're down to 2. Here comes the burn spell. Possibly. No, a Morning Patrol. Okay. Suppose we get another turn. But just seize the storms here. Did not hit the mana for Rise of the Ants. If we had, we're still pretty dead. We would cast a Rise of the Ants, go to 5, and then die to Rem in the Sky. Because Rem makes itself a 4/4. I guess, yeah. If we hit a land here, Rise of the Ants, we wouldn't be quite dead. Because of the gain 3 life. Or no, it's gain 2 life. I always get that wrong because it's 2 3/3s, so I always assume 2 3/3s and gain 3. No, it's gain 2 life, so we're dead either way with Rise of the Ants there. Just throw some counters on Ren. Alright, well. Got beaten up by another very aggressive deck there. That one being red-white with a black splash. Did not see the black cards in the end there. But we certainly got demolished by the red-white rares. And just the aggressive curve in general. The kind of matchups that can really destroy our slow flashback deck here. So we are heading into the final boss now, heading into round 9 with 6 wins and 2 losses under our belt. Regardless of what happens now, this is the final match of the day. And regardless of what happens now, we're in Mythic. We got plenty of gems out of this, and we had a really fun draft here. This has been a very enjoyable deck to play. I just love me a Root Coil Creeper. If you stopped by any of the streams at the Twitch channel in the description below, you'll definitely know that. I've drafted many a Root Coil Creeper in my day. But they usually end up getting cut, unfortunately, as I move into some more aggressive strategy or something like that. But, alright, well, this hand could pan out poorly for us. It is a bit slow, but any hand in this deck is going to be a bit slow. We've certainly got the kind of late game stuff we want in this hand, and we're at least getting a creature out on turn 3 and having a Geist Wave in the early game for some cheap interaction. And our opponent starts with a Flesh Taker here. We could slow them down and just bounce that to their hand so they have to recast it. And I'm kind of into that. I just want to survive at all costs. Graveyard Trespasser is the play for the turn. That is really good against our deck. It exiles a card from our graveyard when it enters the battlefield or attacks. And every time they exile a creature, they gain a life. That's kind of whatever, but the fact that it can exile our flashback stuff is super bad for us, so we really want to be able to hopefully trade off with that with our Overwhelmed Archivist. Yeah, we're just discarding a blue source, right? We're not going to discard a flashback card when they have Graveyard Trespasser out, plus we have plenty of lands here. We have 6 lands. We don't need to draw any more right now. We would need to draw 1 more if I discard a land, though, but that's fine. All our red cards are just a single red, so I think we'll discard the mountain here. But yeah, we have Organ Hoarder next turn, so we're pretty likely to hit another land if we need it. So there's Flesh Taker coming on out. And an Ambitious Farmhand. They may just pass the turn here, but I certainly hope they attack with Graveyard Trespasser. I will take that trade all day long. Alright, no attacks. So, Organ Hoarder now it is. Here's our second green for Rise of the Ants, I suppose. Oh no, they're all flashback! Well, Graveyard Trespasser is going to get some value here. But we put the best one into our hand, which is one of the two Seize the Storms. And we can cast that next turn, of course. But at least if they attack with Graveyard Trespasser here to exile a Seize the Storm from our grave, we get to make our blocks on Graveyard Trespasser and trade it off the board. They do have Coven for Ambitious Farmhand to flip into a 3/3 lifelinker. Not a big fan of that, but I think that's not as bad for us as Graveyard Trespasser is, so we're just going to make a double block on Trespasser in case they have instant speed removal. Well, I guess they're just going to transform the Cathara right now and just send it in. Well, I suppose we take the trade here, because we're going to cast a Seize the Storm next turn. We're going to have a creature that is more than big enough to block and kill Trespasser, even by itself. So even if they have that sheep removal, we'll have the creatures to trade with Trespasser next turn. Yep. So they're just going to flip the Trespasser here into a 4/4. Now we're just going to Seize the Storm from hand, right? 3 engrave. We'll have a 4th when we cast Seize the Storm, so it'll be a 4/4. I guess after they exile one, it'll be a 3/3. But we can double block the Glutton. We could alternatively play a Larder Zombie and just hold up Flip the Switch. Not a big fan of that, but we would have enough power toughness to block Glutton that way also. Yeah, no, I think I'm just on the Seize the Storm plan here. If I had enough mana to cast 2 spells there, I probably would, but I do not. Oh, this exiles 2 cards when it attacks now? No! This is like the worst werewolf for us to play against. Oh no. They exile the flashback card, so that's still a 4/4 at least. But doesn't mean we're not flashing them back anymore. So what can we play around here? It's nighttime, so if it's Midnight Ambush, they could have just already done it. If it's Defenestrate, a double block doesn't help. A double block doesn't help at all, no matter what card it is, right? Like, unless they give this +3/+3 or less, and if they give it +3/+3, it's a bad time for us still. I guess, how does this work poorly for us? What card could it be that double blocking is worse than single blocking? Because they only kill 1 creature if they have nothing. Yeah, I guess I'll double block in case they have the +3/+3 and indestructible if it's a human, because it's not a human, so we would still trade if they have that. I guess double blocking is worse if they have like Midnight Ambush or something, but I really feel like they would have just already cast it if they do. So Blessed Defiance. Alright, double blocking is worse if they have Blessed Defiance. Forgot about that card. It's not that much worse, though. We're still at 20 here, and we can recast that card from grave. We've gotten rid of their card that exiles stuff from our grave, so we can try to go for the late game now. Yeah, that's not super fun, but we just Rise of the Ants here, and we've got blockers on the ground. And we're at 22, so we're doing all right. Everything is all right. Siege Zombie can start pinging us for 1 a turn. A little annoying, but not super scary here. Not that worried about it yet. Fleshtaker does make pretty good attacks here. So if we block it with 1/3/3, they sacrifice like Morning Patrol to bring it back, or they sack their 1/1 flyer. If we block it with 2/3/3s, they do have to sacrifice 2 cards to kill it. They sacrifice the Morning Patrol and the 1/1 flyer. And that would still just be a trade. They'd have to sacrifice their whole board if they wanted Fleshtaker to survive attacking in. So I guess we actually do have good blocks against Fleshtaker. So that's pretty solid. So next turn we have 7 mana. Not enough to cast Rise of the Ants, but we do have enough to cast Larder Zombie and hold up an Arcane Infusion or Memory Deluge. Memory Deluge, an excellent draw that has been an absolute banger of an instant speed draw spell. So I kind of like Larder Zombie, hold up Memory Deluge. If we had 8 mana, I'd probably go for Archivist plus Memory Deluge, but we don't have enough mana to do that. If I cast Archivist, I only have 3 mana up, so I'm only holding up Flip the Switch. That seems considerably worse here. So we'll just play a larger zombie. More than a good enough blocker right now. And we're probably going to Memory Deluge, but we could flip the switch if it ends up being necessary. Man, both Seize the Storms being exiled is a bit of a bummer, but we still have a Root Coil Creeper in our deck that can bring one back. And we do have a third Seize the Storm, actually, so not the end of the world. Kind of an insane draft, honestly. Triple Seize the Storm, that's not going to happen super often, but when it does, man, is it fun. So let's see what they're doing here. Attack for 1 with the flyer, and that is all. We'll take it. So they're just pinging at us, chipping away at us. 1 damage a turn from the flyer, 1 damage a turn from the siege zombie. And Gavany Dawn Guard. It's going to be a pretty good draw spell for them. Do we just counter that with Flip the Switch here? Whenever it flips between day and night. You know, kind of okay just flipping the switch here. Could be wrong, but I'm going to do that. We have Larder Zombie to scry 1 before we draw, so we are still sort of setting up our draw step to make sure we have something to do next turn. Like, it doesn't guarantee we do, but it helps a little. So yeah, because we get to just toss this land into the grave. I guess if we don't, we have 8 mana, so we can play Archivist and Deluge. Or we could play Rise of the Ants. Maybe we keep the land, actually. Yeah, no, let's keep the land for now. Probably Rise of the Ants, I suppose. Because if we just play Archivist, then they can attack in with this Strangler pretty well. Like, sure, my zombie blocks it easily, but then they have a good target for Strangling Grasp. If we just have a bunch of ants out, they just grasp an ant, and it's kind of whatever. But being able to cast Memory Deluge is also really cool. But let's just Rise the Ants here. Still think we're not attacking in. But we might be soon. I only really need 2 3/3s to block with, so we could have attacked there, but then they can Flesh Taker Morning Patrol into a 3/3 ant, or Flesh Taker the Strangler into an ant, bunch of stuff like that. Alright, taking 1 in the sky, we can Larder Zombie twice this turn, set up our draws, and now we'll definitely mill lands. I guess, maybe not, because 9 mana would be Arcane Infusion plus Deluge, but 8 mana is already 2 spells, so we don't really need the 9th mana. Yeah, we're probably Larder Zombieing any lands away now. They're going to strangle the Larder Zombie? They're going to eat it alive. Sure. Alright. We can respond by getting a little bit of value before it dies. See what we hit on top of our library. Scab Wrangler. Scab Wrangler on the flyer every turn. Yeah, that's a thing. Certainly a thing. Yep, and because that's what we want to hit, no reason to tap more stuff. Just cast Scab Wrangler and Memory Deluge here. I guess Scab Wrangler does get Vengeful Strangler slapped onto it. Still slows them down. A couple turns, and we have another Scab Wrangler in our deck still, right? Yes, we do. So, am I going for Deluge here, or just Wrangler? Archivist? I feel like I'm going for Deluge here. Could be wrong. If we get an Archivist out, they might stop attacking with the 1/1 flyer, though, because then we crack back for 2 a turn and draw discard every time we do. They're probably throwing Strangling Grasp on the Strangler, or on the Wrangler anyway. Yeah, we'll play the Archive Haunt here. Play the Deluge when we're out of cards that affect the board to cast here. And again, I think I only really need 2 3/3s to block with, so we can send in here, and sure, they can kill an ant at the cost of just a 1/1 flyer, but still getting a 1/1 flyer off the board is good, or they can kill an ant at the cost of sacrificing the first half of Morning Patrol, but getting that off the board is good. We whittled down the field by starting to attack, whereas otherwise we really wouldn't be whittling down the field at all. So they just sack the Strangler here, throw it on Scab Wrangler. They sack the Strangler, throw it on the Scab Wrangler, fair enough. Alright, and we hold back the blockers. We can sacrifice our Decayed Zombie instead of our Scab Wrangler, but I don't want to sit here taking another 1 damage every turn, so I don't think that we will be doing that. Let's tap before this dies. I believe we're tapping the 1/1 flyer here. Yeah, and leaving the ants to block. We double block Flesh Taker if it comes in, otherwise just single block these two. So no attacks there. Slogurk is the draw. Pretty good. I think I'd rather Memory Deluge first, though. 19 cards in Library. Deluge is better than Infusion, because this draws 1 card out of the top 4, and it might even miss. Yes, let's Deluge. What do we have here? Root Coil Creepers, excellent with those. Seize the Storms. Another Scab Wrangler, just replace it right now. Pretty fantastic. Yep, I think I'm going Root Coil Creeper Wrangler, and we can also just cast both here instead of the Slogurk, which is great. I also think we attack with Archive Haunt, draw discard. I guess if we draw a good card here, like, we're just discarding something that's actually gas, like we discard a Slogurk. So maybe an attack with Archive Hunt doesn't actually make the most sense currently. I feel like you're always supposed to loot, and if we hit a land, we're super happy. I guess saving this back, we do get to block their flyer with it if they send in. Alright, Root Coil Creeper, Scab Wrangler. And they scoop them up. Alright. So I was going to say here, I think we attack with 2 3/3s again, and then we get to tap down Flesh Taker and potentially block the flyers. They're not really getting in, but we are getting in with ants. And then, of course, Root Coil Creeper is going to bring back the Giant Trampler, and that will probably close out the game. Even if it doesn't, we have a ton of value here. So as long as we don't take all this chip damage too much, we're fine. And they're just hitting for 1 a turn with Siege Zombie. Now we have a flyer to trade their flyer off with. So they're just going to scoop them up there. They are not a fan of the second Scab Wrangler, and that means this is a 7-win run with the green-blue-red flashback deck with Seize the Storm, 3 Seize the Storm actually, and double Rise of the Ants. A really fun deck today, and one of my favorite strategies. So here is one final look at the deck. A really high instant and sorcery count to make those Seize the Storms as big as possible. I was going to do a big whole spiel about the whole deck, but I think it was pretty self-explanatory. You just saw 7 games of it, and really fun time overall. So great draft today, but that is going to end today's video. As always, if you enjoy these videos and you want to let the YouTube algorithm know to spread the video to yourself and others, just leave a like, comment, or subscribe, and that'll help the algorithm out. So other than that, I do have a Twitch channel that I play on occasionally, and the link in the description below for some practice drafts. And that's pretty much it for the end of video spiel. So as always, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.